Ended up redirecting it on Zoom.
Cool. You good? Great. Hello, everybody. This is Mike DeBliss, and I am so thrilled to introduce you to Tamala Bakkensen. Tamala is a Linklater designated instructor who I have been training with now for, oh my gosh, I don't want to date us, Tamala, but I think it's going back at least 7 years. And it basically opened my eyes up to a whole new world of voice work that I sorely needed as an actor. And I didn't know it at the time, but I also needed as a trial attorney. Tamala is just wonderful. I cannot say enough good things about her, but I do want to turn over the floor to her a little bit so that she can tell you a little bit about herself. Tamala?
Thanks, Mike. Hi, I'm Tamala Bakkensen, and I am a Linklater voice teacher. I'm also a Feldenkrais practitioner, which is a somatic body neurological education of the muscular skeletal system. So these things that I do mostly for a living have a lot in common about what we can do to understand ourselves more intimately and personally and intelligently in our mind body connection. So the two of them actually have a very strong link, which is what was my through line in life of as I discovered these practices in my training as an actor. You do movement work, you do voice work, you do acting classes, Shakespeare, and so these in particular in my training as an actor were so profoundly changing my life as a human that was greatly affecting my process as an actor that I knew at the age of 19, this is what I'm doing with my life. Like, I want to do this for other people because there's something, and I'm not sure what it is, that really allows me to be who I am. And then as time went on, and I graduated from a graduate acting program in San Diego and moved to New York City almost decades ago. That is what I do for a living and for myself, as well as I'm a professional actor and director. Um, and so I can tell you a little bit about the practice of Kristen Linklater's technique of the voice training, um, if that's a good segue into that. One of the reason that I found that Kristen's work works is because it is about being human. And even the book she wrote called Freeing the Natural Voice, she said, I wrote this to remind people how to be human. And it's funny to say that, but what happens with all of us in the process of growing up is we have to develop structured systems of survival at a certain time in our life. And that means who can we cry in front of? When can we yell and be angry? And like all these things, who can we be super excited in front of? So we have all these bursting emotions as a child, and we're very enthusiastic. And then really around that age, about the double digits especially, we start to really shut down the ability to express ourselves because it's painful. It's humiliation, embarrassment. Even if we're super excited, we have something to lose. And so there are many things we've learned to do that we needed at a time that stopped our voice, that stopped our emotional expression, that stopped us from getting in trouble, from getting bullied, getting made fun of. Boys don't cry, girls don't laugh. There's so many stigmas of how we all grow up. It could be culture, religion, education. And so Kristen, in her work with Iris Warren, who was her teacher, who was the student of Lionel Logue, who worked with the king, if you've seen the King's Speech, who had a stuttering problem. So, and Lionel Logue was working with many people coming back from the war who had major issues in breathing, speaking, trauma. So we all have reasons that in our life heightened emotions have made us uncomfortable in public, particularly in public. And that is the thing. So when we're comfortable with people, when we're with people that we can really lie back with, and we tend to be that, have that human quality where we can be a great storyteller, we can tell a great joke, and then in certain rooms, in certain situations, all of those structured systems of survival can be triggered, and what was once our enthusiasm can turn a bit into anxiety. So as enthusiasm, it comes outward and it's an expression. Anxiety goes inward and it's sort of an implosion. Um, and I think that was what really spoke to me, was not just that the technique could help me be a great actor, be a better, be more personable, advocate for myself, advocate for other people. It also really allowed me to teach others to do that for themselves. And that was really the key to, this stuff works. It works. I watch it and it works for everyone that wants to do the work. It's not, it's one of those things that it's a process. And I think in particular, the brilliance of Kristen's work is the process of the order in which the technique is taught. And that's also what's super exciting for me.
Wow, that's so refreshing because I can't help but think that the courtroom is just one of those places that can be very intimidating and can can turn what might otherwise be easy, like you talk about storytelling and talking about the big game from the night before. It's very easy, in the company of those that we are comfortable with, to share, and to storytell, and then all of a sudden, when we're thrust into a situation where the eyes of other people that we don't know are upon us, something happens, and I feel like there is such a connection between that dynamic and what actors experience when they go on stage every night. Could you speak to a little bit about that?
Well, I will tell you a little tidbit that I found interesting from someone that I've studied voice with, Patsy Rodenberg, that some neuroscience she knew that were studying actors said that an actor going out for a press night is under as much stress as someone that was just in a car accident within the last 10 minutes. So, having been in court myself once with a case I once had here in the city, was the first time that this idea came to me. It was about 10 years ago. I was already a Linklater teacher, well trained in the best acting schools in the country, so grounded when it came to being in public. Yet in that courtroom, the amount of stress that I felt, and even after leaving court, going home every night and thinking about the material and talking with my lawyer, was so surprising to me that I thought then lawyers would so benefit from this technique, about how to ground themselves, about, because also very particular personality of even the judge in particular. So even if you're a great trial lawyer, every time you step into the courtroom, that judge is going to change the dynamic about how they command the space. And that's always a huge thing. How do we command the space, and how do we deal with the different levels of hierarchy that may be in the room? Like
Mm,
when we're in these vertical relationships, as opposed to, again, the people we love, telling a good storyteller in a more horizontal relationship with the people in the room. And so within that kind of environment, the amount of stress that we so that can happen, and that we also had as teenagers, young kids, tweens growing up, going to college, and all those times where we're so malleable. A lot of those things can get those engagements of tension, holding, freezing parts of our face, tensing in our jaw and tongue area, all the things that really we need to be flowing. Because if we're comfortable and we are able to tell this story of something we're really passionate about, others will be engaged.
mm,
Because when we are human and we are passionate, people can't help but look towards what is happening, right? So I can't imagine that could be more beneficial than a trial lawyer stating their case about why this is so important, and not just the case itself, but for the human beings in the room.
Yeah.
Again, that idea of being really connected to other human beings.
Yeah, I could not agree more, Tamala. Could you talk a little bit, because you've referenced this as a technique, could you talk a little bit about what is encompassed by this technique and what you would be teaching in this workshop?
Yeah, so the technique itself, as I spoke of earlier, the greatest thing about Kristen's work and why I chose to become designated by her as opposed to other voice teachers who are also phenomenal and who I have worked with and learned a lot of great things is Kristen's progression. So the progression itself is very outlined. You might think of it somewhat as any great jazz song. This is going to be what the song is. And then within that outline, we play and improvise in our own process while we're also going through the process with others. So, for instance, the progression always starts with just getting to know yourself, questions about yourself, how you feel about your voice, and getting into body awareness and starting to really recognize these micro engagements that we do, how they affect us, how they affect our breath, how do we use our skeleton to ground ourselves in the space as opposed to muscles trying to hold us up. And then what is our relationship to our breath? How much have we been allowing our breathing muscles to do what they do best, which is to breathe for us without anything inhibiting them? And then it gets into the voice work, humming and dealing with vibrations and coming to release vibrations by finding them internally, and then coming on to different ways to release vibrations into the space. And so as the progression moves on, then you get into all the channel work, which is what is going on in the jaw, tongue, the neck by the laryngeal muscles, the soft palate muscle, all of this stuff that in us, as we call the channel, right, our pipeline from inside to out. What have we been doing to shut down the channel? And I find that this work in particular is, for me, some of the most interesting because a lot of the channel is how we stopped our voice. And so within our motor cortex, our relationship to our jaw, our tongue, our lips, our neck muscles is connected to our voice, except we used it to stop our voice. So then when we're stressed and we go to use our voice, these muscles engage because in our brain, we think they are related to voice, and they are, but they are only related in such a way that they inhibit the freedom of real passion and expression if they are engaging unnecessarily. So that becomes a real aha moment for so many people, as some people may have more tongue tension than the person next to them, and some people may have both. And as I think the great thing about it is the self-discovery of, wow, that's the thing I've been doing without the judgment. So that then what starts to develop is a plethora of choices. And the more that we feel these choices are available to us, the more we start to be able to go back to that enthusiastic, passionate expression of self while we're also grounding ourselves and feeling that we are here in this moment with these people in the room, and not like the train is running down the track, not sure what I'm saying, my face is doing something weird, my hands feel uncomfortable, and all these things that we do when we're not really synchronizing the whole self
Mm,
in the impulses that we're feeling from our humanity.
yeah. Yeah, and I'll tell you, as a lawyer who's been, doing this work with you for now for a while, I find that it was something that wasn't even on my radar screen before I started working with you. It was normally, okay, what is the substance and what, specifically am I saying? But this self-assessment and self-awareness of, what I was feeling, was always getting shut down because I was always, as an attorney, afraid to admit what was so apparent, that, I was nervous and I wanted to do the best job I could. But, there was a nerve-wracking thing. So it was one of those things where it was like hoping and hoping and hoping that those nerves would turn into positive energy. And they would, but it would take a little bit longer than necessary to get there. And that would be a little bit distracting to keeping the flow of the story or the flow of the argument. So I agree with you wholeheartedly that this is a technique that gives you such awareness of what your body is doing, and the compassion that that you approach it with allows you to work on yourself little by little, in a very without any stress and without any pressure to be results oriented. And I think that it's a beautiful gift that we can give ourselves when we, come to a class like this, and we're here for the first time working on ourselves.
And again, that thing of what was once enthusiasm very quickly, because enthusiasm and anxiety start as the same physiological experience. And we used to be enthusiastic as children, but the more, people shut us down. Okay, that's nice. Okay, and then it gets older, as we get older, the social stuff of friends like, oh, you're too much or whatever it is. We learn that when we feel that enthusiasm, to stuff it down so that we're safe. And we get really, really, really good at that. And again, I think, one of the biggest takeaways from this is doing this in a space with other people, other human beings that are going through their own thing, and you are in a public space. And the more that you go through these experiences, like after the channel work, we started to get into resonator work and how these different places of our voice express different emotions, and that as we go up into those higher energies, higher expression of emotion, higher pitches, that's where we tend to really start to shut down. So in those moments, those closing arguments, those moments where, the stakes are this much higher than they were Monday, and now it's Friday, and hopefully this is the last day of trial. And one of the things I really have brought into the work that I do, this somatic work of Feldenkrais with the work of the Linklater voice technique, is to really befriend the feeling of nervousness, because we are nervous for a reason. We are nervous because we care so much. And that is actually a great thing. We don't want to lose that. What we want to feel is that those nerves can also energize us. And while we're feeling them, we can still keep expressing ourselves without feeling, is my face doing something? Or am I like, oh, I'm talking from my throat, and we can get very, passionate, and it's all stuck down here. So I think that's the really great thing about it, is to learn to be comfortable with those feelings, because those feelings shouldn't go away.
No.
And I think anyone that cares, especially someone in trial in front of the judge and working for their client, I'm assuming that there are going to be nerves because you care. And that's something you want to work with, not away from.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. It's like it's a little counterintuitive, but yeah, the fact that you're nervous shows that you care. It's almost like if you're not nervous, then maybe then you want to do a reality check and say, do I still want to be doing this type of work, and maybe not doing estate planning?
Yes. And I say that to my students all the time. It's one of the first things I teach as I start when I'm with my college students is, you should only be nervous when you stop getting nervous. Like really nervous. If you are no longer nervous about doing this thing, then you're in the wrong profession.
Yeah.
Like we want to be ambitious and challenge ourselves in our work. That's actually a really healthy thing for human beings. And as you put, the reason this work for actors, and trust me, I know many actors that went to great schools who are now really great lawyers, because there's a correlation of these levels of stress where, oh, today was an easy day. Oh, today So that whole relationship between here I am standing in the wings, ready to go out. I don't know who's out there. Anything could happen. No matter how much I plan, no matter how much I write those closing arguments, within the moment, we are always still somewhat improving in the moment in life if we're being human. Even on stage, even if you're doing the lines, it's got to happen for the first time every time. And it's got to have that kind of level of human passion and compassion. And that's what really gets people to listen to us.
Mm.
And I think that's an important thing. It's not just that we're speaking and learning to use our voice, but we know how to listen, and we're also coming to a place where others want to listen to us.
Hmm. And there is such a correlation between, for example, opening and closing, and an actor that is memorizing, that is memorizing a script. Because the only difference that I really see is that the attorney is the one who gets to write their opening and their closing, whereas the actor, of course, is relying upon the playwright's words. But it's got to be memorized, just like the actor has to memorize their text. And like you said, it has to come out as if it's being spoken for the first time. So I love the similarities that exist between those two, those two dynamics, and how so much of these principles flow seamlessly to the lawyer for that's trying the case.
Yeah. And so I'll say with the work that I do, as you know, in our time that we've also become not just acquaintances, but friends and now colleagues, um, it is work. And the kind of work that I teach is experiential. Kristen's book is wonderful, and I think you could read it and it would change you and your relationship to yourself as a person and how you experience your voice. But there is the process of doing the work, and voice work is movement work, and part of it is finding a relationship, rolling up and down the spine as you're making sounds, getting out of gravity on the floor and moving in ways that lengthen the spine by twisting and moving and moving things through body parts. So it is always, voice work is always movement work. And people need space to be, to move around and experience their voice and to be dressed for the occasion, like to have really comfortable stuff that you would wear to a movement class or even to the gym, and have the things that you would do for training your instrument, because it is a training of the instrument, which some of the only people that do that are artists. So why not lawyers, right?
Yes.
Musicians do it, dancers do it, actors do it. So lawyers, they can train their instrument as well. And it is not a lecture type class. We're always doing things. However, we do have time to speak and have conversations and contemplations about the work itself, and even talk about frustrations or aha moments. So it's something where people are really engaging their whole self, the mind body experience, um, through their voice, because there is no separation between self and voice. Like your voice is part of who you are as much as your thumbprint, your fingerprint. Your voice is your sonic print of who you are. So
Tamala, any spatial requirements that you would recommend, and also
yeah,
personal
I would
privacy?
yeah, I would say that being somewhere that you're going to make some sound, and some sound is going to be bigger sound, moments of bigger releases. So knowing that people around you, if they're there, what that you're going to be doing things like and moving things through body parts. Also, definitely having water and hydrating, because that's a huge part of keeping the whole structure of the voice hydrated and functioning as healthily as possible, and also to be able to move. So that doesn't require a ton of space, but enough space that would be more than a yoga mat. And a yoga mat is great, but like arms need to be extended at times, or the legs, or all of the limbs, and that you should feel your body. So a thin blanket or a yoga mat or a rug is great, but not like a big cushy, shaggy rug, not lying on a bed or a futon. It really needs to be somewhere where your bones and your body can feel a supporting surface in order to find all those things that help you release your breath and your voice.
Wonderful. Tamala, thank you so much for sharing all of this about the upcoming class. I just want to announce the date so that everybody is aware, in an effort to make this as time zone friendly as possible to those on the West Coast. It's going to be on Monday evening, February 3rd, Monday evening, February 10th, and Wednesday, the third week will be on a Wednesday, February 19th. It'll be from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We're specifically doing it in the evening so that you will have sufficient time to make it home and to get dressed appropriately for the movement work that Tamala will be leading you through. It's going to be an incredible workshop, and I really, as I said, cannot speak highly enough about Tamala and the dedication that she has to her students and how she makes this experience so much fun. It is really a fun experience where you get to know so much about yourself along this journey, and where you get to work with just an incredible instructor in Tamala, and she just has so much information to share and has done so much work acting wise that everything that we experience on a regular everyday basis when we walk into a courtroom is something that she has experienced in her own career as an actress. And so she has so many things to share with you on how to deal with the nerves that she's already talked to you about earlier. So again, I cannot recommend this workshop highly enough. I cannot recommend Tamala highly enough. And I so look forward to meeting all of you in the Zoom room, of course, for this workshop in February. So again, Tamala, thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you back here in just a little over a month.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. It's always great. It's always great to be around you. Looking forward to it.
Thank you again, Tamala.
Okay, great.
Great. All right, I'm gonna stop this.